We're joined by someone whose story is as powerful as her purpose. Navy veteran, author, advocate, and proud single mom, Amber Viola. Amber served 8 years in the U.S. Navy, earned her master's in social work from Marywood University, worked in the VA, and continues to lead through services and advocacy right here in our community. She's also an author. Her book, 72 Hours of Hell, My Time in VA, takes readers inside the unseen struggles many veterans face after service. Tonight, we're diving into her journey, her work, and her vision for the future. Welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm glad it finally worked out.
Yes,
and
yes,
I'm here.
yes.
Thank you so much.
Well, before we go into what we got, talk about the election.
Yes.
Yes, blue wave. This election was, I think, so important for us, and my mom actually did a lot of work registering voters. They registered over, I think they knocked over like 77,000 doors or like something, the most doors in like the East Coast. So there was a really big push, especially here in NEPA. It was important. I didn't work on this election as much as I have in the past. Normally I do rides to the polls on election day and stuff. I did for the midterm. Shout out Uber, who gave us Uber codes and stuff for people to use. But this time I did a little bit. I did a lot more social media stuff. I did some interviews with the candidates before the midterms to be able to push them out there and stuff like that, and was able to help out however I can. I'm proud of all the work that everybody did on these campaigns, and proud that Mayor Cognetti is back and pushing forward the progressive agenda that we have here. And I'm glad people voted to keep our Supreme Court justices here in Pennsylvania, because that was really important as well.
Very important.
Absolutely.
Right.
A lot of important elections happen just in Pennsylvania and all over Mississippi. I think.
Mississippi.
Blue
They
in some
flipped.
places.
Yeah, they flipped.
Yeah.
A bunch of Mississippi.
Bucks County.
Yeah.
They had the crazy Moms of Liberty people.
Oh my God.
And
They have me blocked. And I don't even say anything bad. I just tell them the truth, and they don't like the truth, so they block me.
How tough was it for you to go through looking at social media, watching Mayor Cognetti just continuously get smeared and bashed?
It was hard. They ran a terrible smear campaign with a lot of lies. And one of the things that I actually told her after the first debate was, we have to push the message out there, like how good you're doing.
Yeah.
You brought us out of the red and the black during COVID. Who does that? But people don't know that.
They don't know.
People are worried about, potholes. And I'm like, I popped my tire twice too, and I was broke. Okay. And so, yes, it is a struggle. There are things that we need to fix, but like at the end of the day, is it about a pool or like, are we helping people in our community? And I found some of the stuff that people worried about were just so really superficial.
Yeah, I agree.
And the pool thing just irritated the shit out of me. And last summer we went to Arizona to visit another veteran. Actually, shout out to her. She I believe she just reached 100%. So I went out there to see her. She's a single mom as well, so she needed some help. And I get there, and we're in Arizona. It's like 120 degrees, guys. There's no public pools there.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no public pools in Arizona. Why? So, I'm doing my little Google and looking around and stuff. Because everywhere we went, we had to pay either for like a little resort, to go swimming and stuff. And I was like, so if there's no more public pools in a place like Arizona that has 120 degrees, it's hot. Why do people think some place like Scranton, it's tiny, is going to have the financial infrastructure to like uphold 5 pools?
Yeah.
If a city can't even afford to do it.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know. I don't know why that was just like my eyes.
Yeah. And that was, and I know even when we got Trish on, I was like, how are you going to handle the criticism if you win when you are going to have the same issues? You're not going to have enough money, $100,000. Like you can say, I'm going to do this and that, but if the money's not there, I say, so how are you going to handle the same criticism? Because it's not going to be there for you either.
All of a sudden.
Yeah.
Right. And and it just to me was about focus. Like we're focusing on these things, but like our schools. We need some of our schools aren't that great. I worked at Adams for a little bit as a social worker, and the difference between Adams and Robert Morris, where my daughter attends, is stark.
Yeah.
It's like actually insane. You walk into Adams, it's like dark and cold,
Yeah.
and like the walls are dark, and like
Yeah.
they didn't really have a music room. They have a playground. The whole thing was just irritating. Amazing teachers, great social workers. They are amazing. But you walk into Robert Morris, which was just renovated. It's white, like it's bright when you walk in.
Right.
It's inviting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
I love
it is such a stark difference. We have a PTA. There was no PTA at all.
Yeah.
At Adams, and I understand the complaints about different things, but I'm like, these are the issues we need to focus on in our city. Our schools should all be the same.
Yeah.
Our kids should have the same education, no matter where they go 5 blocks away. They should have the same education and stuff. And it's like we're focusing on pools when we could be focusing on those things and everything.
Yeah.
So that's, in a nutshell, how I feel about the election.
Right. So the pools didn't bother her at all. I mean, she won.
Yeah.
Well, I think I seen something. She had like 60% of the vote. So
Yeah.
That's
And what
a
she's
huge
doing,
thing.
people really like. And, even just the splash pads, a lot of people in the summer were talking to me. My daughter does a lot of the free stuff at Weston Field.
Yeah.
They're starting back up again. They have cooking classes and art classes and stuff. And I mean, all those things are free and open to the public for kids to be able to go in and participate. And so there's like a lot of stuff we can do here. And there's so much free stuff that we can do here and use in the community, take advantage of. And I think that really speaks to like our mayor and even our city council.
I agree
Right.
too.
Speaking of city council, how do you? Can't even know I'm touching on it. We were just, discussing. I don't have it. My phone. Sean McAndrew's post, where he, gives us a preview of what's to come with him on the board.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how people already know that they're just going to vote no against everything that the mayor's going to do in the future. That's a crazy stance. But I think something we've seen a lot especially with our Democrats here, is they're not Democrats.
They're not Democrats, and I made that very
They
clear.
are not Democrats,
They are
and
not
that's what it is. If you're going to MAGA rallies, if you support Trump, if you're supporting our current American Supreme Court, all those things, like you're not a Democrat.
Yeah, I agree.
You're just trying to get the votes, which is horrible and untrue, and it's not. Even the MAGA people are going to vote for you, wondering what you're doing. So like.
Yeah.
At least be true for who you are, but I think that's our biggest problem. And my biggest problem with members on the Supreme Court, members on our commissions board, is you guys aren't real Democrats.
They're not real Democrats. Absolutely.
My thing is nothing even happened yet.
Nothing
literally
happened,
just
right?
Why are you already bashing? Why are you already going in?
It's like when Mitch McConnell was like, "I'm going to vote against everything," President Obama.
Well, because he has to appeal to the base.
Yeah, exactly.
And
who's
that's
your
what they
base?
want. And who's
Well,
your
what
base?
is your
And his
base?
base is
Because-
MAGA. His whole base is MAGA.
Well, yeah, but listen, his base will be MAGA, the MAGA people out here, but the MAGA people out in other places, they won't be his friend because they'll be like, "You're a Democrat."
Exactly.
So where are you trying to go?
Yeah.
Don't.
And they're all almost worse than the Republicans.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think actually in our area, I used to work for former Senator John Blake. And me
I would
too.
tell you I said, like,
He was a
I love him.
He was a social worker.
I
He's
know.
actually a big reason I went for my master's.
He's amazing.
He does that's what I want to write legislation, you know. But whenever I went anywhere and people found out that I worked for him, they loved that man.
Yeah.
Republican or Democrat.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be in Boscov's and they're, talking lady, old lady, like, oh my God, I loved him. Loved what he stood for. Did not care that if he was a Democrat or Republican. Veterans loved him. They felt like he really represented any PA as a whole.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of Republicans around here. It's the same vibe for
I
them.
agree.
But then we have like these MAGA Democrats, and it's like, you guys are worse.
You're worse.
That-
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to some of that stuff later. But let's get into what we got here. So, Amber, take us back to where it all started. What made you decide to join the Navy?
Poverty. So I was going to the U. I had scholarships and stuff like that. I was a great student, but I was honestly broke and couldn't really afford just to live, you know, and it was a struggle. And I was working and trying to go to school and stuff. I come from a military family, so it was probably inevitable. My brother and I both joined the military and went, and he went right after high school. I went like after I had done a little bit of college.
Yeah.
So that's honestly why I went in. I wanted to get some, I didn't have experience work really in anything. So when the recession hit, I was like trying to get a job. I couldn't even get a waitressing job because I never waitressed before. So I worked for Obama for his first campaign. And loved it. My actual first political campaign was here in NPA for George W.
Yeah.
And that was the first doors I knocked on and first political events I went to and stuff. So I knew I always wanted to be in the realm, but I didn't know. I needed a jumping off point.
Yeah.
You know, I needed help. So that's originally why I went to the Navy, and I knew I wanted to just like take it all in, get as much education and training and everything that I could.
Yeah.
You rose to gunner, made second class, served as a naval military training instructor, and became a Department of Defense victim advocate. That's a lot of responsibility. What did the experience teach you about leadership, especially as a woman in a male-dominated space?
It was a lot of responsibility. It was actually wild because when I joined, I deployed really fast, and within like 2 weeks of getting out of school, coming from boot camp, I was driving an aircraft carrier, and I literally was like, why the fuck do they trust me? With all this stuff, like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm not ready. Yeah. And I was a little irresponsible, you know, grew up here, so, you know, the world's your oyster and stuff. So it was the first time I really took on responsibility, and honestly, the biggest thing I learned, I could do it. I was so proud of myself and surprised that like I could do this. Like I could do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the most shocking thing. And I realized like, wow. So whatever I set my mind to, I can do it. It's gonna be hard. I gotta figure it out. But like, I can really do this. And you just have to have that confidence. And sometimes I like to say fake it till you make it, and I know some people don't like that saying, but I had to. I was lying to myself initially. I was not confident. I did not feel responsible at all. I was not ready, but I was like, okay, you can do this, like keep going, and I was able to do it.
Right. Yeah. I go through that all the time actually. I have no clue what I'm doing.
No clue at all.
I just wing it and figure it out.
But most people don't, and that's what I found. I thought people did, like adults. Or responsible people had it together, and I was like, oh, everybody knows what they're doing. They don't.
No, they don't.
People are just trying to figure it out along the way, and a lot of people are just better at hiding that.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I think if you don't do that, I think sometimes you just limit yourself. You know what I mean? You don't take that role. You don't take that. Because you kind of talk yourself out.
You talk yourself out of it, right?
Just be like, I'm just going to jump in, and I'll figure it out when I'm in. Yeah.
What are some of the hardest moments that shaped you to who you are today?
I think 11-month deployment.
Yeah.
that was pretty rough. Working 24-hour shifts and then working them and then getting pregnant and still working. Yeah. And I had a horrible pregnancy. I talk about the black maternal death rate a lot. Yeah. Me and Jacqueline were almost victims of that. 7 weeks was the first time I almost miscarried, and I almost miscarried multiple times through that. So like, that was really hard.
And you were in the military while you're pregnant? Okay. Yeah.
And so just trying to still like do my job and also protect my kid and my life and stuff. And I think those were some of the hardest things, and just being responsible for so many kids. Because once I became the naval training team instructor, I had kids right out of boot camp. Yeah. So most of them, you had like between 17 and like 25. So they don't know what's going on. And you have to, you're preparing them to go out into the world.
And what was your age at that time?
So I was 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, and it was funny because nobody knows how old I am
Yeah.
ever.
No, yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'm not your age. Like,
I thought you were younger. I thought you look like younger than 30 now. So yeah.
I was like, I'm not your age, guys. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not your age.
So I want to talk a little bit about your book, 72 Hours of Hell. Shines a light on what happens behind the doors of the VA system. What inspired you to write it, and what do you want people to understand about PTSD and mental health for veterans?
Ooh, so
There's a lot of
I
them.
know. I didn't realize I had PTSD, and I'm sure everybody else did when I got out. You know, I kept hearing that I was so different, but nobody actually told me why, like how I was different or why I was different. And you know, then people were like, "Yeah, you have PTSD." And I'm like, "Really? I thought I was
Yeah.
perfectly together." But when you stop, everything comes out. You know, and I was going for the whole time I was in the military. When I got out, I literally moved here to Scranton, unpacked my house in one day, and Jacqueline started for Shonie Center the next day at Marywood. I started Marywood. I didn't take a break.
Yeah.
I just kept going. I worked through, I finished my degree, and then I got hired by the mayor, and I worked for the city, and then I got sick, and I just, I was an athlete my whole life, and I was very strong, and I knew that if I couldn't count on my brain, you know, I could count on, the physicality
Yeah.
of myself. My mom was in the Army. She was a drill sergeant, you know, so tough cookie. And everything felt like it was falling apart. And when I was working for the city, I dealt with a lot of racism. And then I also dealt with a lot of racism in the Navy.
Yeah.
And I think so somebody else told me, they were like, yeah, I think it probably triggered a lot of you. And I didn't know that, you know, and I didn't even realize that until actually recently. And I was like, yeah, I think it really did. It just made me start to feel the same way. And I felt very unsafe, you know, with some of the personal attacks I was getting and different things. And as a veteran and as a gunner's mate, I can't have my gun with me on my job, you know? So how do I protect myself? And I just got to the point where I couldn't leave my house. I would shake. I couldn't open my door. I was terrified.
Yeah.
And I was never a scared person of anything. And I was going to therapy, and I was taking the meds, and I was trying to do that whole thing, and I just couldn't do it anymore, you know? And I had a great therapist, and I talked to her, and I went and took myself in the VA, and I tried. Guys, I had everything right, all right? I'm a social worker. I had my plan, I had my action plan. I did everything they told me. I did everything right. And I got there, and it was a shit show. I had to drop my daughter off at daycare, you know, at school, and make sure she had a ride home. She could stay with my mom for the weekend for the 72 hours. I really wanted my medicine regulated, and I needed to sleep. I had really bad insomnia. And, you know, my therapist was like, I'm not going to be there that day, but call me when you get there. And they're going to take your phone at some point, but you should have your phone. And there's going to be a bed and all this. Y'all, there's nothing. I get there. First of all, they try to take my phone right away. I'm cold. They got me in some ugly red outfit that screams crazy. So everybody in there knows I'm crazy. And the social worker was very mean to me that came in. They wouldn't let me call my social. They almost did. When we call my mom. And actually, so if you would go and take yourself and say, hey, I need help, there's nothing, they can't really use that against you. Technically, no, can they in some things, yes, but if you get forced,
We get forced, I say that, get 302.
So then I say, you know, I want to leave. You don't have beds here. They're telling me they're sending me somewhere. Where are you sending me? They don't know. Okay, well, I have a kid. I don't want to be away from her. So we'll figure this out. I'll call my girl, my therapist. We'll do, no. Took my phone, basically started to call security on me because I'm crying. And I'm like, you can't 302 me because you're going to ruin my life. You know, and a social worker's lying to me and telling me, no, it's fine. You know, this is the record is sealed. No, I'm I know I'm a single mom. I have custody of my kid. I want to run for office. I need to get healthy. I own guns. I had a MAGA moment, full-blown MAGA moment. Guys, this was the low point of the... this was the real low point in the hospital. And I'm like, you're going to take my guns away. I'm not going to be able to have my gun. And I'm like, I look crazy.
Don't take my gun.
Don't take my gun from me. You know, so So as I'm going through that whole process, and I get home, and honestly, I'm like drugged up. I can't sleep, and I have my kid right away from the house. Like I get my mom ends up. They take me to Lebanon.
Yeah.
They said they were going to provide transportation. I didn't have a way home. They lied. Luckily, I have a mother who has a car and gas money.
Yeah.
Because there's people who ended up getting
Yeah,
stuck there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she came in to pick me up. My phone was dead. I was like lucky enough I wrote numbers and stuff on a piece of paper like before I left and everything. So some people didn't even have phone numbers to call people. And I had to go home and mom that night. Once I finally got out, they